Hello everyone, welcome to Law Excellence's unique initiative, Current Affairs for Beginners. Let's start our today's session. Before starting our today's session, first let us see answers for the questions from our previous video. The first question is, which of the following is or are the causes of tsunami? Earthquake, underwater landslide, volcanic eruption, meteorite strike. The answer for this question is D. All the above, all these were the causes of tsunami. And the next question is, consider the following statements with regard to prompt corrective action framework under the Reserve Bank of India. We have so many times seen about this PCA. It is a framework that is invoked on banks. It is a framework in the sense it is a set of guidelines that were imposed on banks to recover from their deteriorated financial health. When this PCA will be invoked on the banks, and that is decided based on three parameters. One is capital, the other one is non-performing assets, and the another one is return on assets. That means how much profit the bank has attained. And for all these three parameters, RBI has set up some limit. If that limit has been exceeded by the bank, then RBI will invoke these guidelines known as Prompt Corrective Action Framework to recover from the worsened financial health situation by the banks. So now let us see the statements. PCA is triggered when banks breach certain regulatory requirements like minimum capital, return on assets, the quantum of non-performing assets. Just now I have told that based on these three parameters, PCA will be invoked. So the statement 1 is correct. The next statement is, PCA is a measure to maintain financial health of banks. Yes, here the Reserve Bank has set up some limits to make sure that within the limits the bank is functioning. If the bank is within these limits, that means it is financially functioning in a normal way. In case if these limits were exceeded by the banks, that means the financial health of the bank has got deteriorated. Then this PCA will be invoked. So the second statement is also correct. As both the statements are correct, the answer here is both 1 and 2. It is C. These are the three main questions that we have promised that we will be providing you daily. And we have been hearing some queries regarding where to write answers for these questions, in which website, what is the link, and regarding the feedback. Dear students, in our CivilsPrep website, here you can write answers for these questions. There is a hyperlink regarding answer writing. Under this, you are having some topics like topic-based questions or current affair-based questions. Click on this, then it will direct you to current affair based questions. If you click on that question, you can write answer for that question. There you can even see how other aspirants were writing their answers and you can learn from them. And our team will also pick some best answers and they will give their review to your questions. So you have to access the CivilsPrep website where you can click on this answer writing. Under this you can answer these current affair based questions. Now let's start today's session. Our first question is, localized tsunamis difficult to detect, says INCOIS director. In our yesterday's video, we have seen in detail about tsunami. This article comes under GS paper 1 under the topic of geography. Now, from this article, we are going to see about INCOIS. What is this INCOIS? Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services. This is an autonomous organization of union government functioning under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, and it is a unit of Earth System Science Organization. And the purpose for which this INCOIS is established means in order to provide best possible information about oceans and to advise the government agencies, society, industries and scientific communities regarding these oceans by sustained ocean observations and by improving through systematic and focused research on the oceans. So what it does is, it does research and will provide that information to all the government agencies, society, industry and the scientific community about their observations. And if we see some of the developments by INCOIS, this INCOIS is developing ocean forecast system for the Indian Ocean countries, and it has already provided operational services to Maldives, Sri Lanka and Seychelles. And in 2017, it has inaugurated the ocean forecasting system for other Indian Ocean countries like Comoros, Madagascar and Mozambique. So what does this ocean forecast system do? This system will offer high wave alerts, port warnings, forecast, oil spill advisory. If any oil spill is there in the ocean, it will provide oil spill advisory services along the ship route. Along with this, it also provides alerts regarding tsunami and storms. It will provide warnings and it will help in search and rescue operations by the disaster management team. These ocean services are aimed towards safety at the sea. This ocean forecast and early warning information on winds, high waves, currents, tides, subsurface ocean conditions are helpful for coastal population, fishermen, tourism sector, coastal defense officials, port authorities, marine police, research institutions, offshore industries of all these Indian Ocean countries. The next article is Bogibeel, from small to big. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of infrastructure. From this article now we are going to see about this Bogibeel. Let us see what all we know. This Bogibeel Bridge is a combined road and rail bridge in Dibrugarh district of Assam. This is the India's longest road and rail bridge that connects Dibrugarh in Assam to Pasighat in Arunachal Pradesh. The construction of this bridge will be a major boost to improve transportation issues, especially for armed forces along the border in Arunachal Pradesh, because India shares nearly 4,000 kilometer border with China. At present, the train journey through Guwahati will take 37 hours. Now, with the construction of this bridge, the journey between Dibrugarh and Delhi will be shorter by 3 hours. That means it will be done only within 34 hours. See, here you have to remember one thing. We are not saying that it is the longest bridge in the country. It is the longest road cum rail bridge across the Brahmaputra river. It is the longest bridge across the Brahmaputra river. Here, this bridge is the fourth one that is being built on this Brahmaputra river. There were 3 other road cum rail bridges that were being built, and this is the 4th bridge, which is the longest comparing to the previous 3. So this Bogibeel Bridge is the longest structure that is being built on Brahmaputra river, and it will be the country's 4th largest bridge. The next article is course correction. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy. From this article, now we are going to see about a thing known as GST Council. We know that the GST Council has been created in 2016 under Article 279A of the Constitution of India. What does this article say? As per this article, a GST Council has to be constituted by the President within 60 days after the commencement of this article. We know that the main objective of goods and service tax is to develop a harmonized national market, a uniform one market for goods and services. And what is this GST Council? As per this Article 279A of the amended Constitution, this GST Council will be a joint forum of center and states. This council will consist of, the composition of this council is Union Finance Minister is the chairperson, he is the chairman of this council, and Union Minister of State who is in charge of Revenue of Finance, he is a member, and the minister in charge of taxation or finance or any other minister that is nominated by each state government were the members. So all the 29 states members, he can be either a minister who is in charge of taxation or finance or any other minister that is nominated by each state government. So what does this council do? As per this article, the council will make recommendations to the union and states on important issues that were related to goods and service tax, like taxes, cess, surcharges that have to be that should be subsumed under the single tax GST, and which kind of goods and services has to be exempted from GST, which has to be put under this GST, and what is the threshold limit, whether under which slab, whether 18% tax or 28% tax, under which slab they should come under. And they suggest some model GST laws and the principles on based on what principle this tax has to be levied, and it will provide some special provisions with respect to 8 northeastern states. We know along with these 8 northeastern states, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir and Uttarakhand. The decisions of this GST Council will be made by 3/4 majority of the votes that were casted. The center has 1/3 of the votes and the states together they have 2/3 of the votes. So each state has 1 vote irrespective of its size or population. And in the composition we have seen that there will be a Union Finance Minister who will be the chairman, Union Minister of State in charge of Revenue and some other state ministers. Along with these people, there were also other officials like Secretary of Revenue, Chairperson of Central Board of Excise and Customs. He will be the permanent invitee, but he doesn't have voting power here. And there are new posts like Additional Secretary and Commissioners that were created under this GST Council. And one more thing that we are going to see from this article is here there is a mention of sin goods. We have to know about a type of tax known as sin tax. What is meant by sin tax? These are the taxes that are imposed to discourage the consumers from using certain goods or services that are undesirable or detrimental to the society. The intention behind these sin taxes are, there are 2 things. One is to make the undesirable goods so expensive so that the consumers will be forced to give up buying these kind of expensive goods which were undesirable. And the other objective is to make the industry that is producing these products to pay high taxes, which can be used to fund other welfare expenditure for social schemes by the government. In India, the sin tax is on cigarettes, pan masala, liquor. All these have always attracted high taxes, even under our non-GST regime. When GST was not there, even then we had this sin tax. And now, under the unified GST regime, a committee that was headed by Aravind Subramaniam, he has recommended that in the unified GST regime, certain goods, they should attract, this sin tax is also known as demerit tax, they should attract 40% of tax. Like luxury cars, pan masala, tobacco products, all these should be under this. So now if we see the importance of this sin tax is, see, the excessive consumption of tobacco, alcohol or some empty calories will lead to heavy or severe health risks like cancer, heart conditions, obesity, all these. So there are also evidences from other countries that they have imposed sin taxes, which has shown that the consumption of cigarettes and soft drinks has got reduced significantly after this sin tax has been imposed in those countries. And the huge revenues by many state governments in India are from liquor sales, because of which tax will be paid to the state government. So now it will increase the revenue of state governments, as it is a plus point. They will earn more from these sin taxes. The next article is Promise Rights, Get Votes. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of governance. From this article, now we are going to see about an act known as Panchayat's Extension to Scheduled Areas Act of 1996. It is known as PESA. We know that the 73rd Amendment Act of 1992, it has given constitutional provisions for a 3-tier panchayats all over the country. But this act is not, the 73rd Amendment Act is not applicable to some areas, some states in the country like Jammu and Kashmir, Nagaland, Meghalaya, Mizoram and some other areas that have scheduled and tribal areas. And these areas are the areas that include scheduled areas and tribal areas in the states, hill area of Manipur and Darjeeling district of West Bengal. To these areas, the 73rd Amendment Act is not applicable. That means to have a 3-tier panchayats is not mandatory for these areas. So, to cover the areas that were not under the 73rd Constitutional Amendment, a law known as PESA, Panchayat's Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, was enacted. This law was enacted to bring the scheduled areas that were not under the purview of 73rd Constitutional Amendment. This particular act extends the provisions of Part 9 to the scheduled areas of the country. This act has brought powers further down. Here we know that it is a 3-tier panchayat system, whereas this act has brought down the powers further down to Gram Sabha level. So this Gram Sabha has been given, it has been entrusted with various powers under this Panchayat Act. Powers in the sense like they have to be consulted, they must be consulted if government wants any land. If it goes for land acquisition which is under this scheduled area, then the members of this Gram Sabha has to be consulted. And they also have the power of ownership over minor forest producers and leasing of minor minerals. Now let us see it again in detail. We know that village level democracy, it has become a reality for India in 1992 with the 73rd Amendment to the Constitution, which has made it mandatory that the resources, responsibility and decision making has to be passed on from central, the higher authority, to the lowest unit of governance, that is the village assembly or panchayat. A 3-tier structure of local self-government was provided under this amendment. But the laws do not automatically cover the scheduled areas. So to cover those areas, this PESA Act was enacted in 1996 to enable tribal self-rule in these scheduled areas. This act has extended the provisions of panchayats to tribal areas of 9 states that have 5th schedule areas. We have already seen what are those areas. The areas where there were scheduled areas and tribal areas. Most of the northeastern states were under 6th schedule areas, and these are not covered by PESA, as these states, they have their own autonomous councils for governance. The 9 states with 5th schedule areas were AP, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa and Rajasthan. This act has empowered the Gram Sabha of these scheduled areas to approve plans, programs for social and economic development, identify the beneficiaries under poverty alleviation programs. It is this Gram Sabha who will certify the utilization of funds by Gram Panchayats, protect natural resources, and it also includes minor forest produce, and the Gram Sabha has to be consulted before land acquisition. And this act also makes sure that each tier of local governance is independent, and panchayats at the higher level should not assume the power and authority of any panchayat at the lower level or of the Gram Sabha. The next article is Implementing NOTA in the Right Spirit. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of governance. From this article, we are going to see about this NOTA. NOTA means none of the above. It is a ballot option that is designed to allow the voter to indicate his or her disapproval of all the candidates who are contesting in the voting system. This was introduced in India following by a Supreme Court order in 2013 in a case known as People's Union for Civil Liberties versus Union of India judgment. But NOTA in India doesn't provide for a right to reject. And here you might get a doubt. If there are NOTA, none of the above options were more comparing to the votes that have been got by the candidates, does it mean the election will be stalled? No. Among these persons who have got votes, the candidate with maximum votes will win the election irrespective of the number of NOTA votes that were being polled. Even the Election Commission has also clarified that even though the votes that were cast as NOTA are counted, but still they are considered as invalid votes, so that there will be no impact, there will be no change on the outcome of election process. So that's why this is not a right to reject. So now, is this NOTA option available for all the elections in the country? No. NOTA option will be available only in direct elections, such as for Lok Sabha and State Assembly elections. This is not available for Rajya Sabha elections. Our Election Commission has removed this NOTA option from ballot papers of Rajya Sabha Legislative Council elections, and this was followed by our Supreme Court's directive, and the Election Commission has removed it. Now let's see our today's questions. The first question is on the Bogibeel Bridge. India's longest railroad bridge will come up over which river? And the next question is, which of the following products were under the purview of GST? And this is our Law Excellence website where you can access the notes for this video, and this is our official Telegram channel where you can access notes for this video along with its video and some other videos that were being uploaded by our Law Excellence IAS Academy, and also our materials. Thank you.